Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a neurological phenomenon that's so fascinating, it might just hold the key to understanding creativity, language, and maybe even consciousness itself.
Let me start by asking you a question. What color is the number 7? Now, for most of us, that's a weird question. The answer is, well, whatever color it's written in, right? But for a small handful of people, that question has a very specific and very real answer. For them, the number 7 might just be green, or yellow, or maybe a shimmering blue.
And this is the world of synaesthesia. It's this really mind-bending condition where your senses kind of get their wires crossed, and we're not talking about imagination here. We're talking about people who experience the world in a fundamentally different way.
So what does that actually mean? Well, for someone with synaesthesia, we call them a synaesthete. Hearing a C sharp on the piano might automatically trigger the color blue, or a certain word could literally taste like mint. It's this involuntary blending of senses that for them is just as real as everything you and I see in here. You can probably imagine, for the longest time, this whole phenomenon was viewed with a ton of skepticism. I mean, scientists often just dismissed it as a hyperactive imagination, or maybe just really vivid childhood memories. You know, like from those colorful alphabet magnets we all had on the fridge?
So, how in the world do you prove that someone's internal, private experience is actually real? Well, scientists got really clever. They designed some truly brilliant tests to separate what was genuine perception from what might just be memory or metaphor. One of the most elegant and honestly powerful proofs is something called the pop-out test. It's a simple visual challenge designed to see if the colors as synesthete experiences are actually part of their vision. And the results? Well, they're pretty incredible. Okay, so take a look at this. We've got a total jumble of the numbers 2 and 5. Hidden somewhere in there is a triangle made out of 5s. For most of us, finding it requires a slow, deliberate search. You have to scan it, number by number. It's tough, right? But now, look what happens for a synesthete who sees the number 2 as, say, green and the number 5 as red. To them, the image looks like this, and bam, the triangle of red 5s just pops right out from that background of green 2s. They don't have to search for it at all. They see it instantly.
And this is the key. This isn't a memory trick. This pop-out effect is a hallmark of early, automatic visual processing. It proves that for them, the colors are a real part of their perception, happening at a really fundamental level in the brain.
Okay, Section 3, crossed wires in the brain and the cross-activation hypothesis. So we've established it's a real perceptual thing, but how? How is this actually happening inside the brain?
Well, the leading theory is called the cross-activation hypothesis, and it's actually pretty straightforward. It turns out that in a part of the brain called the fusiform gyrus, the area that recognizes the visual shape of a number is located right next door to the area that processes color. They're neighbors. And researchers think a genetic mutation causes extra connections, extra crosstalk between these neighboring regions. See, normally, as our brains develop, a bunch of excess connections get pruned away to make things more efficient. But in synesthetes, that pruning might be incomplete, leaving these areas hyperconnected. The result? When the number area lights up, it accidentally triggers the color area next door. And get this, it's not even a one-size-fits-all condition. Researchers have found a difference between what they call lower and higher synesthetes. For lower ones, it's the specific visual shape of the number 5 that triggers a color. But for higher synesthetes, it's the concept of 5. So the Roman numeral V, or even just 5 dots on a die, will trigger that same color. So, metaphor, creativity, and language, a window on what makes us human. Now this is where things get really interesting. This neurological quirk isn't just about colored numbers. It might actually give us a profound insight into where things like metaphor, art, and even language itself come from. All right, time for a quick experiment. Look at these two shapes. One of them is named Booba, and the other is Kiki. Just take a second and decide for yourself which is which. Don't overthink it, just go with your gut. So, did you make your choice? I'm willing to bet you matched the spiky shape to that spiky-sounding name, Kiki, and the soft rounded shape to the rounded-sounding name, Booba. A whopping 95% of people do. This is called the Booba-Kiki effect, and it suggests that deep down, we all have a kind of built-in synaesthesia, this natural connection between sight and sound. This has led to an absolutely fascinating theory about how language even got started. The idea is that these natural synaesthetic links gave us a starting point. We didn't just randomly assign sounds to things.
Our brains were already primed to connect visual shapes to sounds, and those sounds to the mouth movements needed to make them. This process could have essentially bootstrapped the entire creation of a shared vocabulary.
And the connections don't stop there. Research suggests that synaesthesia is up to 7 times more common among artists, poets, and novelists than in the general population. So what's the link? What's going on there?
Well, the theory is that if that genetic mutation that causes synaesthesia is expressed more widely across the brain, it could lead to a general talent for making connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. And think about it. What is creativity if not the ability to see novel connections between concepts that nobody else has seen before? So, what starts as this strange little perceptual quirk suddenly becomes a window into our most human traits. It suggests that our capacity for art, for language, for abstract thought, it might all be rooted in a brain that's fundamentally built to cross-connect. Maybe creativity isn't some kind of magic. Maybe it's just a different kind of wiring.